So now we move to the next part of this session, which will be student talks. So let's welcome Krishnendu Sinha from SNBN CBS. The title of the talk is Regulation of Rho A GTPase by Phosphorylation of Rho GDI. So you have 12 minutes to present and then 3 minutes for question answer session.
Okay,
So please,
am I
Krishnendu.
audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so I'm presenting my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, it is visible. Yeah,
Okay,
your screen is
thanks.
visible.
So firstly, I would like to thank the organizer for organizing such a beautiful event and also giving us the opportunity for presenting our work. Today, I am going to present our recent work on regulation of Rho-A GTPase by phosphorylation of Rho-GDI. So first, I will start with GPCR receptors. So they are basically receptors that receive stimulus from outside the cell and propagate. They activate the G proteins, and these G proteins bind to downstream effectors and ultimately triggers cellular response. So we are interested in this G proteins. So we are dealing with Rho GTPases, which are essentially small G proteins, and they take part in cellular signaling. So they act as molecular switch. So they have two states. One is the GTP bound active state, and the other is the GDP bound inactive state. So this conversion between active and inactive state is determined by two other protein, GAP and GAF. In presence of GAF, this inactive state goes to active state, and in presence of GAF, this active state goes to inactive state. In the active state, it can bind to effectors and trigger cellular response. And we are interested in this part, that is, in inactive state, it can bind with another protein, Rho GDI. When it binds to Rho GDI, these proteins are anchored to plasma membrane using this isoprenyl moiety here, this black one. They are hydrophobic moiety, so they are anchored to plasma membrane by it. When GDI binds, this prenyl moiety goes inside the hydrophobic cavity and ultimately forms a cytosolic complex of GTP bound Rho GTPases and Rho GDI. Now, all the cellular process by binding to effectors will require this complex to break. This is a picture of this complex. So this pink one is the Rho GTPase and this blue one is Rho GDI. Now there are two main interacting regions. One is this helix-turn helix region, which interacts. This is in GDI. So this is helix-turn helix region of GDI. It interacts with this switch one and switch two loops of these Rho GTPases, and other interacting region is this isoprenyl moiety, that is the cysteine geranyl. Rho A, it interacts with the hydrophobic moiety of Rho GDI. Now, activation of these Rho GTPases from this complex will require this complex to dissociate. Experimentalists have suggested that phosphorylation as a key post-translational modification for dissociation of the complex. This phosphorylation is highly specific in nature. That is, if we phosphorylate this serine 34 or serine 96, then this one is serine 34 and this one is serine 96. If we phosphorylate these two, then specifically Rho A gets released. And if we phosphorylate 101 and 174 serine, then specifically RAC1 gets released. So this is known as the unique phosphorylation code. We would like to know the molecular mechanism from where this specificity arises. So in this work, we have studied the effect of phosphorylation of serine 34. So we have performed molecular dynamic simulation of both wild and phosphorylated type, and we have performed all atom molecular dynamic simulation. We have simulated this for 2 microseconds each of them, and after that the trajectory was used for further analysis. So first, what we have done, we have calculated the RMSD of Rho A and GDI protein separately. So we can see here that the RMSD of Rho A remains more or less constant, whereas RMSD of GDI increases around 600 nanoseconds. So we expect that there are some structural changes associated with this increase in RMSD. So to check which structure are changing, we visualize the structure, and by visual inspection, we observe three major changes. One is that this N-terminal helix is melting. This helix is basically this one. This blue helix is melting here. So this one is for wild type, red one, and this blue one for wild phosphorylated type. And we can see after phosphorylation, this helix is melting, and also the conformation of this N-terminal region is changing. And another interesting change that we observe, this cysteine geranyl moiety is coming out of the hydrophobic cavity. So to quantify these structural changes, we have calculated the distance between the tip of cysteine geranyl to the center of mass of hydrophobic cavity. We see around 800 nanosecond there is an increase in distance, and also from the distribution plot we can see there is a small peak at higher distance. So so we can say that cysteine geranyl is coming out of the hydrophobic cavity. And then we have also calculated number of contact between two regions. We have selected the region as this. We have calculated number of contact between this PBR, polybasic region, this is in row A, and N-terminal region, this is in GDI. So we have first calculated the coordination number between these two regions, and also we have checked that this N-terminal is moving like this. So we have also calculated number of contacts between this region and this C-terminal region. So we can see after phosphorylation, number of contact between this PBR and N-terminal is decreasing, and the number of contact between N-terminal and C-terminal is increasing. This is also evident from the distribution plot. So we can say after phosphorylation, this N-terminal moves towards the C-terminal, and this interaction between this PBR and N-terminal gets broken. So we have calculated binding energy between Rho A and GDI protein. So we observe around 600 nanosecond, the binding energy decreases. The decrease in binding energy signifies weakening of interaction between Rho A and GDI protein. Now, this decrease in binding energy is mainly associated with decreased number of contact between Rho A and between PBR and N-terminal, and also the increased distance between cysteine geranyl and hydrophobic cavity. Now, what we have in phosphorylation, what we do, we basically add one single negative charge. Here we have phosphorylated this site, serine 34 basically. So after addition of one negative charge, we expect that this will disrupt the interaction energy, electrostatic interaction energy network. And to quantify this disruption, we have calculated the residue-wise electrostatic interaction energy change. It is basically change in interaction energy in phosphorylated and wild type. So we have plotted this delta EI. We can see there are some large change in this terminal region of Rho A, which is in this region. So that for those, and we have colored the protein in terms of delta EI. So the residues that are colored in blue have delta EI less than 0, and the residues that are colored in red have delta EI greater than 0. So this belongs to the PBR region, this one. And also there are some large changes in this region, which is in this N-terminal HTH domain. And there are some small changes in C-terminal here. And in protein, they are located in here. So we can see there are some changes that are far apart from the site of phosphorylation. So this is a signature of long-range allostery. Now our question is how this signal is propagating from site of phosphorylation, that is from this site to this cysteine geranyl moiety. For that, we have calculated pairwise electrostatic interaction energy difference between wild type and phosphorylated type. Now the blue dashed lines for which for the blue dashed line, the interaction energy between these two pairs is less than 0. That is that they have favorable interaction after phosphorylation. And for the residue, we have used red dash. They are unfavorable interaction after phosphorylation. They show unfavorable interaction after phosphorylation. Hello.
Yeah, you are audible. Just
okay. So what happens that we can see that there are number of red lines among this region. This region is basically the PBR region of rho A, and this region is N-terminal of GDI. So number of interactions between rho A and GDI, that is PBR and N-terminal, is getting broken, and there are some favored interaction between N-terminal and C-terminal. So that this is also consistent with our previous result that N-terminal moves towards the C-terminal. Now this delta EIJ calculation may give some overestimated result because we have not considered the dielectric constant of water. So we have tried to build a network using hydrogen bond to see if how the signal is propagating from here to here. Here we have listed some of the important hydrogen bond occupancy differences. Hydrogen bond occupancy is number of in a trajectory in percentage of frame the hydrogen bond is there. So if occupancy difference is greater than 0, that means those hydrogen bonds are more in phosphorylated type, and negative means they are in more in wild type. So red lines indicate after phosphorylation these hydrogen bonds break, and blue lines indicate after phosphorylation these hydrogen bonds are formed. So we can see a clear network how signal is propagating from here to the site of the cysteine geranyl site. So at this moment, I would like to show you this. This is a mechanistic picture that we have seen. So we have the blue one is the phosphorylated type, and red one is the wild type, I think. Yes. So red one is the wild type and blue one is the phosphorylated type. So we have phosphorylated this serine 334. After phosphorylation, what happens that this residue changes its orientation completely and forms a hydrogen bond with arginine 420. And there was an hydrogen bond between 334 and 68 in wild type. After phosphorylation, as this orientation changes, this hydrogen bond breaks. Now, after breaking up this hydrogen bond, this arginine forms an hydrogen bond with this aspartic acid. This hydrogen bond with this aspartic acid, and after this hydrogen bond formation, there are a number of hydrogen bond formation between this C-terminal region, that is 484, 485, 486, with the N-terminal of rho A, that is N-terminal of GDI, that is 321, 322, and 323. As a result of this hydrogen bond, this N-terminal moves towards the C-terminal, and as this N-terminal moves towards the C-terminal, the interaction between this C-terminal and this PBR region gets broken. We can see the interaction between these two regions, the distance increases, so interaction will decrease, and there is a large change in hydrogen bond network in here. So after phosphorylation, this 186 form a hydrogen bond with 464, which forms a hydrogen bond with this lysine 467, and as a result of that, hydrogen bond between 467 and cysteine geranyl 190 breaks, and after that the cysteine geranyl comes out of the hydrophobic cavity. So this is the mechanistic picture that we thought was correct. We have also used the minimum distance analysis to prove that. Due to lack of time, I am unable to show that. So in summary, I would like to say the binding energy between rho A and GDI decreases. This decrease is mainly associated with decreased number of contact between the polybasic region of rho A and N-terminal of GDI, as well as the increased distance between cysteine geranyl group and the cavity. And we have seen that the signal from the phosphorylation site is propagating to the cysteine geranyl cavity using hydrogen bond rearrangement and charge-charge interaction. At last, I want to thank my supervisor, Dr. Suman Chakraborty, for his valuable guidance, and I also want to thank my institute, SNBN CBS, for funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishnendu, for your wonderful talk. Now, next, move to the question answer. So, Professor Mayer has raised his hand. So, please.
Yeah, nice, very nice talk, Shubhendu. Sorry, Krishnendu. So, a quick question for you. Now, these are all simulations, right? Or is this?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, could there be a? I mean, you're presenting it as fact. Now, whenever there is a simulation, it would be good to verify, whether these are, these are real effects or something that is seen due to some kind of a artifact in the force fields that you use. So
Yes.
what are the tests that you plan to do to, it's a very interesting model that you're proposing. And I think many of us who work on these rho GDPases would be are very intrigued by it. So how would you test this?
So actually, experimentalists have already observed that phosphorylation of serine 34 decreases the binding affinity between Rho A and GDI, right? So our simulation also points to the same fact that we have calculated the binding energy between Rho A and GDI. The binding energy shows after phosphorylation, the binding energy decreases. So our study is well in agreement with the experimental result.
So then what does it predict which is not known?
So
Which you
how
can
this
then,
signal is so what is not known is why from where this specificity arises, right?
Correct.
That if we phosphorylate serine 34, specifically Rho A gets released, but if we phosphorylate serine 101, then instead of Rho A, RAC1 gets released. So we are trying to predict a molecular mechanism which suggests the specific interaction that needs to break so that the specific Rho GTPase gets released.
Right.
So in terms of molecular interaction, we want to visualize that. We have only studied this serine 34, but we would also like to study the other phosphorylation in Rho A and see what changes that are specifically happening after serine 34 phosphorylation that leads to the dissociation.
I see. And do you have an experimentalist who works with you, or?
At this moment, no.
Okay.
So, Krishnendu, we have one more question, like from Dhiman Ray. He asked, how were the binding energies computed? Did you use some method like thermodynamics integration to compute free energy?
Okay, so we have calculated the binding energy using MMPBSA method. We have used the GMX PBSA software.
So, looks like there is no more questions. So thank you, Krishnendu, for your nice talk.